Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. James Sharmack here. So we haven't done a Playmates versus video in a while, so let's get to it. So right here you see the NECA Godzilla, Burning Godzilla from King of the Monsters we've done. I reviewed it a long time ago, or a bunch of years ago. But I got the new newish Playmates version. So I thought we'd do a versus video, so let's actually take a look at this figure first, and we'll compare him to the NECA and see how it goes. Okay, so we have the Burning Godzilla from King of the Monsters from Playmates. It's from their Monsterverse line. They actually changed it up so it's not like based on any movie. But anyways, it has text from Godzilla King of the Monsters right there, Burning Godzilla right there. Obviously, it's more energized than burning for the picture. On the back, picture the figure, fully posable and articulated. We'll see how that goes. A little text there if you want to take a blurb. Some figures on the bottom there if you want to, see if you can collect them all. I haven't really, done any store shopping lately, so I got this for Christmas. So it's taking a little while, but we're going to take a look at the figure today and see how it goes. So let's take them out of the box. Okay, so we got a Godzilla out of the package, looking pretty cool for the Playmates. Obviously, he's translucent, so you use a light source, it's going to go right through it. I don't really have anything right now, but take my word for it, it definitely is. But anyways, got some nice detail for what it is, though it feels smoother than it probably should. We'll talk about that when we compare it to the NECA. But anyway, still looks like Godzilla. Even though some parts are a little bit soft, like the arms a little soft plastic, the rubber, whatever. Tail's a little bit soft too. But it's Playmates, so you get, like I've said with these videos, quality is what it is for the price. So still looks, I don't know why he's not standing up, but anyway, still a pretty solid looking figure. You could probably do a lot worse. And if you don't have money for like a NECA or even a Haya, which I'm kind of considering, so I'll see how that looks, but still looks pretty cool. So it's gonna look pretty solid on your Godzilla shelf for what it is. So it's still striking. Obviously the orange sets it apart from like your regular Godzillas. Anyways, let's pull out the NECA and do some comparing, shall we? Anyways, it's probably not fair to be comparing a Playmates figure to the, something that's a little bit more quality, but we're going to do it because that's what we do. We've done it before and we're going to do it again. Anyways, detail-wise, let's take a look. Playmates is what it is. It doesn't, the skin's kind of smoothish, There's some detail. I'm not saying the detail's bad. Detail is pretty solid, but compared, I think NECA looks a bit more, he definitely has more feel to it. I think, this is too shiny. I think, the blacks come out a little bit more on the orange and whatnot. I like this, this veiny look on him. I think the head looks a bit better compared. Obviously it's a $10 figure versus, what's at the time $25, $30 figure, so of course that's going to lose to this, but still it is what it is. Like I said, you can do a lot worse, and this is better than nothing at all. But if you can get one of these, and we'll probably get the Haya just because I want to do a comparison. So if you can still find this for a reasonable price, why not? So articulation wise, there is no contest. You know this, I know this. Anyways, we'll just take a look at the Playmates articulation just because we've already discussed the NECA. It's got so many points for articulation, especially the tail, like knees, whatever, elbows, whatever. Anyways, Playmates, jaw opens and closes, head turns side to side, arm moves a little bit, legs move a little bit, and the tail, one point of articulation. Can't really bend it or anything, so that is what it is. And like I said, multiple points, so many points of articulation, so we don't need to go over it. Anyways, NECA wins. Accessory wise, I guess we'll give it to Playmates because he has the the fire effect. But very soft, very soft silicone, whatever. Still looks pretty cool. Probably you could use this for any other figure. It's got this little nub right there, so you just take it right up into the mouth, and there you go. He's going to go to town with a fire effect. So yeah, I'll give it to Playmates on this one. Now, I probably talked about this already, but we'll talk, more in depth about the sculpt. Obviously, Playmates, not saying it doesn't look like Godzilla. It does, it has some nice sculpt to it for what it is. Dorsal fins look pretty cool. It definitely does look like Big G. But it is, minimalistic. But then you have the NECA. Obviously a lot of detail into it. Like I said before, the skin is definitely textured. The head sculpt is fantastic on it. Like I said, I'm probably gonna take a look at the Hi-Ya figure and see about getting that. I think his tongue moves too. No, it doesn't. So Hi-Ya's tongue is going to move. So we're going to take a look at that. Dorsal fins, a lot of detail. They, just doesn't look plain. There's definitely texture to it. Tail obviously is textured. Obviously NECA is going to win for, sculpt. And it should. Okay, so, Playmates didn't really have a chance, right? You know it, I know it, but, it's always fun to do these comparison videos. It allows me, pull out a NECA figure now and then and, look at it and, talk about some more. So, I loved the NECA figures. I loved how they were. I know it bummed me out when they lost the license, but, it is what it is. Hi-Ya toys are a little bit more pricey, but I dig those. Same scale, more, same quality, probably a little better quality, more articulation, a little bit better sculpt. So, there's that. So that's kind of a plus. But, for what it is, this isn't a bad figure. I like to knock the Playmates, but, every now and then they'll, do a halfway decent one. This one, it's pretty solid. Looks, obviously looks the part. It's, decent sculpt to it. And, they didn't really skimp on the paint going down the tail, so that's kind of impressive. Because, they usually do. So, yeah, if you can find this one for a decent price, why not pick it up if you, if you have, whatever. If you're like me, you're frugal, whatever. Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize for saying whatever a lot, but it is what it is. So, yeah, I just wanted to take a look at the Playmates figure really quick. Just do a comparison, obviously. If you guys like these comparative videos, want me to pull out a figure or two from the past, and, if I get a new figure, well, you want to see a comparison video, let me know. And we'll see how it goes. Anyways, my name is James Sharmack. This has been your Nerddom with J&J. As always, keep on collecting and happy hunting.